Hello guys, welcome again. Today in this session we're gonna see one of the very important topic in related to the SQL, where we're gonna create the temporary tables in the and that's called the CTEs, and how this can be used to create the views or to create the stored procedures that selects some of the data for us. So for today's demonstrations, I'm taking an example of one of the my northern database that I have here. So that's the local database. So in this northern database, I do have some tables here. So I'll take example of the supplier table. So there is already some tables which I will be creating again. I do have one table here, supplier, so I'll take use of this supplier. You can take any table, you can play as you like, but for simplicity I'm just using the supplier table here. So I'll be creating using this supplier table to create the city and use those city result sets to the query that I do have there in the view or in the store procs. So first of all, the CTE, it's a temporary named result set that's given by some of the select statements. The CTEs, these are pretty much derived from a simple query and are defined within the execution scope of the single select or insert or update or delete statements. Whereas common table expressions, that's what we say as CTE, it can include references to itself, which is we call the recursive CTE, which we'll see the examples. So first of all, we'll create a very small CTE, common table expressions. I will try to see the result sets of that expression, and we will use that result set to move those record set into the separate table, and we'll see what that new table contains. I mean, basically we are moving the data from one table to another table by the help of CTE. So as you know, if you see this example, then so this is basically the Microsoft Docs, and this is very useful and it's pretty easy to understand as well. So at the moment I'm at with the common table expression page, and this common table expression page, here we do have a syntax for creating the CTE, and where in the syntax basically we do have the common table expressions, the number of columns that we need or that we define as, and the main body, that's the CTE query definition. So basically, as you can see here, the expression name, so this is the name, unique name provided to the whole city expression, and then the number of columns, the name of the columns that you're gonna specify that this city gonna work on, and basically the query definitions that you write within the city. And also it's pretty important to know some of the guidelines provided that you need to take care while you create the common table expressions. So the main points, maybe these all are the basic guidelines that you must follow. So for example, the city statements expressions are followed by a single select, insert, update or delete statements, and and it can also be used to create a view or to return the selected records in the stored procedures. And also when we use the multiple cities together, then those multiple city result sets can be combined by use of like union, all, accept or intersect like options. And basically for the recursive cities, when city points itself, then sometimes that scenario is a recursive scenario, so that's an recursive city. And the last but not the least, the clauses that we use in the SQL statements, for example, order by, into, option for browse, and few more are there, I think. So they cannot be used inside the city selects, but we we can use a top clause in there. So I think we'll see these things in the example that we will be demonstrating next. So yeah, so I just guess so this page is pretty helpful. So it's pretty straightforward as well. It's not that hard to understand. So yeah, the features and limitations of the city. So yeah, so this I mean, I recommend you guys to have a look this page first and just deep dive on the cities. Okay, so let's demo now. You can see that I'm currently at the Northern database, and I have opened the supplier table, and in the supplier table there is the structure of the supplier table: supplier ID, company name, contact name, and all the details. So if I just want to select, so basically this is the data that we currently have in that table. So what we're gonna do is, I will be interested on only few columns. One is like supplier ID, and company name, then after a region probably. So I can rewrite this statement as select okay, supplier ID and company name and region from suppliers. So if you run this, yeah, then you're gonna see some of the records here, only the specific records that I need. So here this statement is just selecting the some of the only 3 columns from whole, because I don't need this. So now the next step is, I will be creating a CTE, and that will select only the subset of this result sets. So to create a CTE, what we have in syntax is, first of all, it needs to be followed by with. So just give the name of the city, suppose select CTE demo, and you can use this as an as, and you can specify here the the structure of this city, what it returns. Suppose select 1, you can return that, or you know, like if you run this and select all from CTE demo. Okay, if you just run this, then probably you will not get anything. But if you define here like ID and select 1 as, if you do this, then definitely you'll get something like the ID is 1. So but at the moment we are not interested with this ID 1 or something. We are interested with the supplier ID, we are interested with the company name and the region. So the structure of this city will be supplier ID, company name and region. So what you can do is select. So now you have specified the 3 columns in here, so you have to specify again here 3 columns. So for this select statement will have a data from our original suppliers table. Okay, so what it will do is, it will create a CTE of 3 columns, and this CTE will extract these 3 columns from the suppliers table like here. And as we know, this CTE demo is a common table expressions that has some values in it now, so we are selecting that one. So if you run this one, then see you have the supplier, common name and region. So basically these result sets are not coming from here, these are coming from this CTE. So let me format this statements a bit so that it's easy for me to read. Okay, so my next step is to put all this record set into a separate table. So I'll create another table, probably supplier v2, and I will be inserting all these records in that table. So for that I need to say this select statement. So because this is the select statement followed by the city, so select all into, so my table name, new table name will be suppliers v2. So this will create a table if it doesn't exist. Okay, so from, and you need to provide the name of the city here, so CTE and demo. Okay, so now if you run this, then it will insert all the result set of this city into the suppliers v2. So basically at the moment I don't have suppliers v2 here, but when you run this query, then I will have that. So here if you refresh this table, you'll see a suppliers v2 table, and if you see the data inside this, then you do have all the data inside. See, so you are moving a data from one table to another table by the help of city. So that means now at the moment data wise, this suppliers table and this suppliers v2, they are pretty much similar, only the number of columns they have is different. For example, if you expand this table, the original table, then you have some sets of columns here, maybe like 10, 12, and if you expand this one, then you have only 3, because the reason is you have specified only 3 columns while you deal with the cities. So now here I do have some problems, because here you can see that this suppliers v2 table is just like a temporary table that I'm holding a records from the city returns by that common table expressions. So what if I try to run this command again? So it will say that the suppliers v2 table is already exists in the database. So that means what you need to do here is you need to delete this table before you execute this common table expressions. So how you can do that? It's pretty easy to accomplish this task. All you need to do is you're gonna, before executing this city, you have to write one expressions drop table if exists. So what is the table name? The table name is, I'll copy from here, it's the suppliers v2. So if I do have this suppliers v2 table, then sorry for the typo, if I do have this suppliers v2 table, then just delete it and just keep on executing the task. So every time this statement execute, this SQL executes, it will delete the object suppliers v2 if it exists, and it will execute this cd command. That means it will recreate the supplier v2 every time. So to see this in effect, I will just make it run. Okay, I guess this is an object, so I don't need this to be the string. So I think this should work now. So let's execute this command. Yep, this command is executed. So if you see this table again, then it has some same amount of data. So for now I will just delete this command, or I will delete this table, so this table is not there, and it will create the table again. If you refresh this one, then you can see the table is being created, and again they are the same identical tables, only the number of columns is different. So the suppliers v2 is using the first 3 column names. Okay, so now I do have another scenario where I will not be inserting a temporary result set into the new table, but so I will just delete this table. So all I will do is I will select all the values from cd demo. So still for me this is not valid anymore. So if you run this query, then again you are getting the same set of result sets here. Okay, so what I will do now is I will make this city a part of the view or the stored procedure, and when you execute those stored procedures, it will just return this set of result sets like this. So let's do that. For that we can create procedure. So let's name the store procedure CTE as and begin, and then after this needs to be int here like this. So I think this works. Now this will create one store procedure called SPCTE. So that store procedure you can find it here in the programs. It's not listed, so just press refresh and go to store procedures, and yep, that's the one which created. So if you see the if you want to modify this, then just click modify. You will see pretty much same sets of the SQL file, but some of the extra bits are being added. For example, you know, all the database that is being used and everything. So you can change this. Suppose if you want only the supplier ID here, then you can change this supplier ID. Then you can change this so that when you execute, for example, let's say, okay, execute. So now when you execute this sort procedure, then you will see only the supplier ID. Why? Because I have modified this city here, but I want all the records from this temporary table. So I will update the store procedure. I don't want to save this anymore. And let's run this again. So let's run this by execute store procedure, and if you just like say okay, then yeah, you can see the supplier ID, then after the company name and the region. All right, so if you want to execute the store procedure somewhere from here itself, then you have a command exec and store procedures CTE. So you can just create it here like this, and you just run this one. Okay, so it's not running. Yeah, we can just run this. So this will give you the required result sets that basically it returns. So also the last but not the least, so similarly you can create a views as well. Okay, not only the procs, you can create a views. Basically its usage is basically it's better in the views rather than in the store procs, but for simplicity I have shown you how to use these cities on the store procs. So as you can see here, you do not have any conditions specified here. You are having all the data from the suppliers table. So you can you can specify the conditions, you know, like where region is null. So basically this will display all the records whose the region value is null. So if you run this, okay, so where region from suppliers. Okay, this error you are getting because again, as I said before, this SPCTE is already available here. So you are trying to create the same object again. So what you can do here is drop procedure if exists, right? So the procedure name is CTE SPCTE. So now if you run this application again, then I think it will not run again. Okay, these are the recursive. Okay, I think that's the problem here, because when you execute this one, then it's executing so many times when you just execute this one. Okay, so this means I can clearly see that there is some problem in the definition of this store procedure. So how can we check that? Just right click here and just modify it, and yes, I can see the problem here. We just need to create the store procedure here, right? We don't need to execute. So I have removed that one and execute. It's created successfully. So I need to save this. I'll go back here and try to execute again. So yes, so this is executed, right? So that's how what it becomes. So now if you want to change this store procedure where you want to display only the values of the suppliers where it is not null, or like as we have in previously, then just right click here, just modify it, and you can just have not null, or I think it's previously null. So if you execute this one, and if you create a new query and exec, so store procedure CTE, if you run this, then you see only the records where you do have the data where the region data is null, and if it's like not null, modified here like this, execute, and if you run this again, then it will just see all the not null values here. So guys, that's how we're gonna use these CTEs on the databases, and this CTE is very much useful when it comes to the data migration from one table to another table, or like if you want to manipulate the data and you need to hold the data temporarily for some time, and you have to work based upon that temporary record sets. So that kind of environment, it's very efficient to use these CTEs, common table expressions, in the transact cycle. And yeah, so this is a very basic example of this, and I do suggest you guys to go through this simple page, the Microsoft Docs for the SQL server for the common table expressions. And here you do have, like, again, guidelines, then for defining the recursive CTE, and there are some more examples here, and so it's pretty much straightforward again. And I would just recommend to go through all these steps, so see and what you can adopt in your application, and taking your SQL skills to the next level. Okay guys, I guess this is all for today, and I hope you like this session. If you have any feedbacks, then I'd love to know that. If you want to share this among your friends, so that they can get benefits as you did, then it's just feel free to share it, and just keep supporting guys. Thank you.